All right, you tell me when we're recording.
We are.
Okay. Good evening. This is the open meeting of the New Park and Recreation Commission. It's being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. As such, Governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by this recording. Please note that all votes will be taken by a roll call. And with that, I will call to order the Park and Recreation Commission meeting of September 14th, 2020. Thank you for attending, and I would welcome Rick Merson is here. I don't know if we have anyone else, but anyone here, welcome. And if you wish to speak, please let Stacy know. Okay, do we have anyone who has stated that they wish to speak, Stacy?
Nope.
No. Okay, so let's start the meeting and we will go right into the director's report. And let me double check, Matt, you are here, right? I see your picture.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just trying to reboot my laptop, but I am here
Okay.
on
All right.
the phone.
As long as you're here and we have our quorum, why don't we start? And let's start with the director's report,
Great.
which
Well,
coincidentally agenda
it's coincidentally what? First on the agenda?
on the agenda. So there you go.
I like to get all the talking out of the way. So the director's report just basically outlines a quick summary for the summer programs. Chris popped that in there. So overall, summer recess was a huge success. The staff was great. We handled all the COVID protocols. I think pretty well. I think, like I mentioned before, kids do pretty well at masking up. Getting kids to remind kids to mask up is sometimes hard, but overall, I think we did really well. The pool bid, I'm sure you guys are all chomping at the bit.
Yes.
We had one bidder today. It was Weston and Sampson, and the bid came in, and no, I didn't write down the exact numbers, but Kristen did. It's around 20K and change. I want to say 2280, which is not crazy high. I wish it was slightly lower, but we feel pretty good about it. We can, Kristen assures me we can pay it. And then we don't have to meet again until next fiscal year because we can't afford to do anything else. So that sounds great to me. Just kidding. Just kidding. Kristen, what's the actual number?
Oh, I'm sorry, I closed that. Okay.
You don't have it memorized?
Well, she's frozen.
She does that a lot.
Yeah, she just froze.
Okay.
So
Chris?
22,000 is about, we thought it would be perhaps as high as 20,000, correct?
Yep. Well, it's 20,200 and something was what I think it was, but as soon as Kristen unfreezes, oh, Kristen, you're going to hate watching this to take notes later.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. She's back.
It's $20,702.
Yeah, I was off by $500.
Okay.
Thank you. Cindy, I think Chris had a question.
Go ahead, Chris.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind me asking, I think it was already answered, but that was pretty much within the realm of where we thought we were going to be. Like, if you had to put a target, were we aiming more for like the 15 to 17 range and it came in at 20? Or, I mean, is that a good scope to look
It's a
at?
pretty good scope. It's right. It's a number I'm comfortable with. I was hoping for 17 or 18. I'm not surprised at 20.
Got it. But it is Weston and Sampson, the place that opened our pool, that is also closing our pool. So that's, I mean, that's a
And
benefit.
built it.
And built it.
Do you have a priest shirt on? What are you wearing?
No, I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
Okay. May
Sure.
I remind you, that this is being recorded. So Stacy, what's the next step? Obviously, the next step is to review the bid, accept the bid, I assume, since there's only one bidder. But what's the next process? I assume we have to review it and make sure that what they have put in their document is everything that we need. And maybe that should be directed to Kristen, but I'll direct it to you.
Thank you.
And then give me the timing that you would expect to happen.
So because we don't, so typically you would look through the contract, which we will do, make sure that they hit all the things that we requested of them. I believe Kristen, I didn't see it because it was open today, so I haven't seen it yet. Kristen gets it typically before I do. Then you would check references. We obviously don't need to go that route because they are the people that open the pool, service the pool, and build the pool. So we don't have to check references. So we can execute it before the end of the week. And then, Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, they can technically start as early, definitely by Monday, if not sooner.
Okay, so you
Is that correct?
anticipate 21st? Go ahead, Kristen.
Yes, so as soon as it's executed, then they can start work. That's how it's written. The proposal was written and very
As soon as
Oh, she's
possible.
frozen.
I'm just going to try from every device in my house. So they are, hopefully they can be starting as soon as possible. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. And how long will it take them to finish this process? Is this a 5-day process, a 5-week process? I don't have any idea how long this will be.
So there's certain parts of it that, like, the idea. So what's going to happen is they're going to come in and put the cover on as soon as possible. Once we vacuum it, which we'll be doing this week. They'll put the cover on as soon as possible. Then the interior stuff they have to do is only going to take a couple days. And then, because we're doing all the outside exterior stuff, like taking out the railings and storing the lifeguard chairs. So it should only take. It shouldn't take much more than 3 weeks in total, counting this week.
Okay. And when you say we're taking out the railings and that stuff, by we, you mean our staff? You mean DPW staff? Who's actually doing that?
So it depends on the exact task, but like taking out the railings, our staff. Checking the faucets and toilets and all those kinds of things before they get shut down, that would be building maintenance. So there's we have a whole checklist of who's doing what, and we've had meetings about that, and so we're all on the same page.
Okay, terrific. Any questions from the commissioners? No. Okay, so we could be all buttoned up by the end of October. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that's actually how the contracts are, and they have until the 30th of October to complete all tasks.
Okay, all right, terrific. What would you suggest, and when would you suggest we start talking about the opening process for next year? Because I do recall what I'm going to say was a little bit of a horror show that we went through. And it was a lot of money in that proposal. And as you mentioned, Stacy and Kristen, we don't have that in our budget. So we're going to have to ask for that money somehow. And I would rather raise my hand sooner rather than later, just so town gets used to the idea that we need that to open. So what would you suggest in terms of timing?
December
December.
to go out to bid.
Okay. Go out to bid.
Ideally, so we're going to try and push it as a 3-year bid at the very least, with opening and closing, because if you remember, because I blacked out basically during that process of opening, every year is going to be slightly different, because in year 1 you don't have to replace, say, tires, but in year 3 you do. So we're going to go through it methodically and figure out exactly what each year is going to look like for opening and closing, because the more the openings, sometimes the more the closing, but not always. So we are going to look at that and then start the bid process in December.
Okay, and that contract would have to be executed and finished in this current fiscal year, correct?
Yes.
So we need to
The
ask
opening
for,
part of that contract would have to be executed in this fiscal year.
right, so we have to ask for that somehow. Since I don't know the amount, I don't remember what those 3 different levels were. I know we went with the middle tier, but there were 3 tiers and they were fairly expensive. Okay, Mr. Gerstle?
I was about to ask that same question. Like, do we have a ballpark? What was the opening cost that we went with? Will we be around that so we can have a ballpark figure what the total cost would be? So say it was like 30 to open and 20 to close. We're going to be asking for like, say 50 to 55. Would that be right? Or, I mean,
What this year is shaking out to be?
I would say if we anticipate, because we know, I remember you had said, we don't need to do everything every year. You had said, you know, we could do something every other year, or every 3 years. What are we anticipating the total cost going to be for both opening and closing? Just a ballpark figure.
Kristen, do you have anything on that?
This year, our opening costs are approximately $31,000, a little
Okay.
more than that. And our closing costs are coming out to be around, let's roll it rounded to 21,000. Next
So if we-
year, I
If we were
would,
to pick 60, that would be a good, say, average.
if we were to
Okay.
open in the same level that we opened
Sure.
this year, yes.
Okay.
If we were to open at a lower level, I'm sorry, actually, we went with level 1 this year, I think.
That was 2.
I thought we went with level 2,
I
didn't
thought
we?
it was 2.
Yes.
I can confirm that. I'm pretty sure, I think we ended on the second revision of their cost out. I think we landed at tier 1 because we had moved from the first thing that they gave us, we had moved a bunch of items that needed to be completed in tier 1 level service over. And I believe we landed on tier 1 service. I can confirm that. I'll pull that up in a second.
I think you're right.
And then, but then of course, like tier 2, and you know, during our pre-bid for closing, there was discussion about other items that we might need to address in the opening, that were, I believe, more of a tier 2 level of service, or something that we would have to pick up, the departments would have to pick up, to ensure that we do have another good opening. But I can
you.
pull that in just 1 second. Yeah.
So as a commission, when should we start this process? Or what, I'm just not sure when to ask for this money or to alert people. I'm assuming, Stacy, that you're alerting town manager and assistant manager that this is coming.
They're
Okay.
already aware of it, yes.
And the town manager went through that plan for opening in excruciating detail with us before Stacy came on board, if I remember, Chris, right? That was right, and Kristen, yes. So she crawled through it with us one afternoon, line by line. So it won't be a surprise to her from that regard. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Just,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
quick,
Chris.
and I apologize if I'm making this confusing, but aren't we almost asking for it twice? Because we're going to put that into our budget, that which you usually do around November, December of this year, correct? So that, all right, so that's when we're going to be, using it. And we'll just have to state that it's a 3-year period that we're doing it for, not just a 1-year calendar thing. It's a lump sum over a 3-year period. Okay.
But I don't believe we'll be signing a 3-year contract. I don't think that would be the case. You think it would be?
Yeah, I think we would, definitely. It wouldn't be the first time. We have 3-year contracts all the time with our services. So we would budget it out that way. And I did talk to Dave in one of our budget meetings about, like, do you want us to do it this way? Do you want to do it this way? And he was very much like, well, rip the Band-Aid off and let's get the 3-year contract going.
Okay. Really, really like Dave. Very, very practical. Okay. Okay. Any other comments or questions about the pool right now? Okay. And again, I think we said this last time, but thank you to the staff for staying open that extra week. I think that was terrific. Okay.
It was, except the weather just mocked us ceaselessly that week.
Yeah.
Just like every day there was something that got rained out. So it was, typical August weather.
But most of the time we were open was pretty darn hot and obviously dry. So it was a good summer to have the. Okay. All right. Stacy, if you don't mind, would you continue with your director's report?
Sure. Field Summit was held last Thursday. I thought it went pretty well. Permits, requests coming from 10 separate groups have been reviewed and received. The actual permits have started this week. Pollard Field is still closed due to the vandalism. And I have a meeting with a resident tomorrow about some concerns about Lower Broadmeadow and the trash, and it's a neighbor down there. So I'm going to meet with her tomorrow and find out what's going on there.
Okay. Commissioner Gerstle and then you, Matt.
I know all 5 of us were probably on that call, and you're right, Stacey. I thought it was great to have it. I think in the times that we're in, to have all the user groups. I know that Dina Hannigan with field hockey, I was very excited to hear about everything that was going on, because the last time she heard anything was December, of last year. So to have something more recent, I think she was very appreciative of that. I thought it was also great that our park and forestry director pretty much laid down the law of stop being a bunch of knuckleheads sometimes. Like, stop dragging stuff over fields, stop leaving trash. I thought it was a very good and strong message that both we put out and park and forestry. So, not saying we need to do this every year, but I think it's great to have at least 2 field summits per year, so people are understanding, because you might have people change from January that are at a meeting that they don't know what's going on in the fall. So I thought it was a great job by you and the staff.
I think Commissioner Tulin had something, but he's gone off on a phone call. So,
He's back.
Commissioner Tulin, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Sorry, and I'm going to have to step away for 1 second. Forgive me. But Stacy, you said they're going out this week. Have permits been assigned? Have people been able to start today, as of today? Just curious for my own knowledge.
Yes.
Great. Awesome.
Terrific. I will echo what Chris said. I thought the field summit went very well. Thank you to the staff. I thought it was an excellent job of presenting. And I also appreciated that Eddie was there because he was pretty stern about the trash, and his stories about the dogs were actually, they weren't funny as he presented them, but for those of us who've been around for a long time, they were a little bit funny, with people thinking that it's okay, I'm just going to be a short while, so it's okay if I break the rules. But he was very definitive, and I appreciate what he said. And hopefully the groups, I think he was aiming at everybody, but I think it may have been specific to 1 or 2 groups, and hopefully they picked up on it. And if they didn't, we will certainly help him communicate that directly. So I appreciate that. And what happened on the Pollard Field? What was the vandalism that happened out there? Did someone drive on it?
Yep. Donuts.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
Eddie's team knew about it right away, and they got out there, and now we're just resting it as long as we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Till it comes back.
Okay. And I know we did have a little confusion on Saturday where baseball, some people thought they were tryouts and they showed up and they weren't supposed to be there. So that was cleared up and they're gone, and hopefully baseball will not be a problem again. But it's often about baseball. When it's not about dogs, it's about baseball. One commissioner's opinion. Anything else on fields, permitting? Okay, playgrounds.
All playgrounds are open. The assessment from Emmy O'Brien and Sons should be coming in any day now. I haven't seen it yet, but he said by the end of the month. And I did receive a quote from another vendor, Playground Inspections of New England, to do a more thorough assessment, and the cost for that assessment is $4,400 roughly. I I have not executed that because we were waiting to find out about the pool bid and see how much money we have and see where we can spend this money before I jumped any guns there. And we're doing a little bit of repairs on a few of our playgrounds, so I wanted to get those focused and underway before we jumped ship to this thing. I did find the assessment that you guys or Patty had done in the order of stuff that needs to be ripped out. There's nothing surprising on it. Like I said, the assessment I'm looking for is more for those middle levels of like what kind of maintenance we could be doing to get more life out of these playgrounds, as opposed to what needs to be torn out first. Those, I imagine all the lists are going to look pretty similar between what Patty and the commission came up with and what Emmy O'Brien is looking at. And then if we do have that outside vendor, what they might find.
Okay.
But it's the maintenance level of concern and what we really need to be doing to move to bring some of them back up to code, because playground codes change just like with the wind, basically. And then also putting in some real maintenance to try and get some of these things up to code and get some more life out of them. And
Okay.
frankly, ideally, a long-range plan would make sure all of our playgrounds surfacing would be 100% ADA accessible. And so whether or not we're updating playground pieces or swings or whatever, but maybe just looking at some of the surfacing across the board, because that, for me, is a huge, huge deal for people being able to access the playgrounds.
Okay. Commissioner Tulin?
Yeah, so a couple of quick questions, Stacy. I like what you're saying. I guess I'd really like to see what we talk about in terms of that long-term plan, like what is surface maintenance required every year, and then what is, physical maintenance, and then also knowing what's in scope for the park and rec parks versus what's at the schools, because I know Parks and Forestry does a lot of the groundwork at, say, a Newman or whatnot from a surface perspective, but the schools ultimately own those playgrounds and the equipment there. So understanding the balance between our responsibilities, Parks and Forestry, and how we can make that long-range plan more of a unified long-range plan than just, hey, this is Park and Recs and this is the schools, right? So that we have to bring others along, because as we noted in the last meeting, we don't own all the playgrounds. The schools have jurisdiction over many of those.
So what I found out on that, so Matt, Parks and Forestry definitely does all of the maintaining of everything and the fixing of the things they can fix. A snapped bolt, a broken swing. We do have some things just sort of like downstairs in storage. My understanding, and I own all the playgrounds. The schools fundraise for them, and the PTOs get involved, and they put their mark on it. But my understanding is it's technically ours, and Kristen can speak to that better than I can, certainly, but that was what I got from my conversations last week. Kristen.
Yeah, so Park and Recreation has jurisdiction over all playgrounds and athletic fields in the town, and we obviously give access to the schools during school time, but we maintain all playgrounds, including school playgrounds, and that comes out of the Park and Recreation budget 100%. When a school finds a damage, they email our department to manage that. We do have an individual that works on playgrounds a couple of hours a week dedicated, but Parks and Forestry does really take on a lot of that effort for the most part. And, they're certainly the ones that go and spray if there's bees or wasps, not bees. We don't spray bees, we spray wasps. But for the most part, to be clear, for the most part, the schools do not own anything, and they don't have jurisdiction over any of the playgrounds at the locations that schools are at. We are.
Thanks for clearing that up. That was my misunderstanding of how it was represented. Maybe I'm the only commissioner.
The schools might think
that way.
differently, but technically that's.
Yeah, I just And I also recall that typically when a school wants a new playground, we tell them to go fundraise for it, which is probably where my thought
Yeah.
process was coming from. But I didn't realize that that was a donation being made to Park and Rec was being made versus the school itself. But
Yeah.
that's great. No, that's awesome. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
I will say that sometimes the schools do take on the cost. The example was, I believe there's a new shade structure at, I believe it was Mitchell. And the school said, listen, we have a lot of money that we can spend. And we were like, sure. But those needed the blessing of the department, which is why we saw the renderings a year, 2 years ago at this point. And it was also a CPC driven project originally before the budgets came out.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything else? All right.
CPC to eligible projects, articles that have been deemed eligible. That is specific language. Claxon Field and the track. We are still waiting on the next steps on that, I believe. Any updates from, oh, that's your job. Sorry, Cindy.
Yes. Commissioner Gerstle, since you are our liaison, our representative on the community committee, you bring us up to date.
So we had our open public forum via Zoom 2 weeks ago, Kristen, or last week? 2 weeks ago. That we went through every
Seems like.
article, and Ed Olson was on there to represent both the Claxon Field and the track renovation. I know Stacy was a attendee of it also. Claxon Field, and please get me honest here, I don't think there were any issues whatsoever. I know there was 1 or 2 questions asked by a fellow CPC member of the scope of the work, but it was very well detailed. The track renovation did come under a few questions by one of the members that didn't think it was the right time to do it because money should be spent elsewhere. As it is right now, the select board will support us on any article that we put through CPC and whatever CPC deems eligible to put through onto the warrant, which both of these articles qualify for that. I made the suggestion that for the track renovation, it would be great to almost have a possible letter of recommendation from either the Needham Track Club or the 2 high school track teams to say how something like this might benefit and how something that needs to be done. Letter of encouragement, whatever it might be. It might also be great that Commissioner Chaston actually made the suggestion to have the company that would do the work to write a letter of, all right, if you weren't to do it this year, if you were to do it the next few years, your cost would go up X amount, or what that possibility would be, and maybe even bring a scope of it to being, we had a similar situation at this track in this town, and this is how they did it, and it went through, or even a bad case where they didn't do it, and then the cost went up tremendously because they missed their window.
Okay, Commissioner Tulin, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, I was going to, when I raised earlier, I was going to suggest that we get the cross country and track coaches from the high school or the AD to join us in that, because it really becomes an athlete safety issue at this stage, because that is the other element of this, is that we're dealing with and worrying about athlete safety. And I think it's important that the town understands that this is, when we have a track meet, there are several, pre-COVID, there are several hundred kids there at any given event, let alone what Needham Track Club does. I also think, Chris, that there may be another group, which is the Friends of Needham Track, which is, they're like the booster club, but for the track team at the high school.
Okay.
So they would be another group to reach out to. I'm sure they'd be very keen on this. They'd actually probably love to see what they could do to either get a proper starting timer or other things and other enhancements to this project. So whether we connect Eddie to them or whatnot, but I know a number of the members would be more than willing to speak out on this issue.
Right. Now, the other thing I know, like, I've walked the track and I've seen the holes that Eddie has talked about. I know Cindy went, and I think Stacy, you also went with her. I mean, they're there. You can also see the areas where they did patch jobs and they just blatantly stick out. So I think Ed Olson was also saying, he referred to like of a driveway. When you have a driveway put in, you have to have maintenance on that driveway. You have it resealed over a certain amount of time, that you're going to have to put a little work and a little money into it if it's going to last its shelf life. I think this is a good example of what needs to be done with the track, that the more that we put into it now, the longer it will last.
Right. So, Chris, what will be the logistics for town meeting? Thinking about our annual town meeting in the spring, any presentations on articles were taped, right, videoed, for lack of a better
Mhm.
word, and meeting members got to watch them ahead of time, as opposed to presentations that day, right, to save
Sure.
time. So do you see that we need to do that for this project? And if so, who will speak? Will CPC speak? Will Eddie be willing to do one of those? And do you think I do one, you do one? What do you think?
I think it would be that the liaison would speak about it, and then Eddie would speak on both of these. If there are any questions, who knows, they might pass unanimously and no questions are on there. But if it does come up, is that you would have the liaison speak, and then you would have Eddie speak on behalf of whatever one of those. And if Stacy, if you were there, you're more than welcome to join us too. No, you're not going to be there?
No,
They're
what I was going
fun.
to say, I think Cindy is alluding to the videos
Oh.
that go out ahead of time. Who should be
Oh.
doing the videos and the PowerPoints
good-
and the presentations?
Yes.
That's a good
Yes,
question. I think it might be good to have Eddie and one of us speak to it. Stacy, you mean? Oh, I mean Cindy.
Kristen.
Yeah, your window's different than ours, Stacy.
Kristen-
Kristen's down there for me.
Kristen
Yeah.
knew who I was talking about.
Like, you're pointing to me. That means me.
I think, frankly, if we can get a PowerPoint or a video, and we can get some of those kids from the high school, especially, to speak about this, I think that's probably the best bet. If this is going to cause, if this is going to bring up some questions, I think we should really put some effort into the presentation that people will look at ahead of time.
So
Yes.
I can reach out to the head cross-country and track coach. Kristen, do you want me to point them to you, or have you already done that?
Kristen?
So the article presentation will be done by the CPC because the CPC is the proponent for the funding source. If we want to make a separate video that we can share with the community ahead of town meeting, I think that would be an excellent opportunity for the commissioners, for the user groups to all submit something. I can definitely pair together a bunch of videos. It's not a problem. And send that out in conjunction with, because the warrant article is just to describe the project. It is not, it's just here's the project, here's what it is. I don't think they take questions. They may have taken questions. I'm sorry, my town meeting was last weekend, so I'm getting my town meeting and our town, the Needham town meeting mixed and entangled.
I think what we did in the spring, so we definitely had videos to watch for virtually every article, and that they were well done, most of them. Probably all of them were well done. I believe town meeting members were encouraged to submit questions in advance if they had questions. They also were allowed to ask questions that night, sitting out in the parking lot. But I think the idea was not to minimize discussion as much as to minimize questions so that we could get out of there before it got dark. And I think it will be the same idea this time. So I would be curious if CPC is going to do a presentation. That's great. I will tell you, thinking back to Rosemary Pool, that fell to us, right? Because I did several presentations, and I know Matt Tulin did several presentations, and CPC, I guess they did speak, but it was pretty limited. They did not get up there and say much other than, this project is eligible and this much is eligible. So it would be good to know, and maybe this goes back to you, Chris and Kristen, what CPC will be doing. And then I think the commission should probably do a short presentation by video. Excuse me. I don't know how many people we really want to have on the video, because when you're watching these videos as a town meeting member, short and succinct is appreciated. But we don't want to not do the project, give it credit. We want to give it enough
Mhm.
credit that it passes at 160,000. So it would be lovely if it passed by unanimous consent and we didn't have to answer any questions. I'll bet that won't happen. I would be surprised. But I don't know that for sure. I'm just thinking out loud that might be
I
a
think
surprise. So
if it makes the docket, then we should probably put some sort of short video in there for at least the track, potentially the lights. Although I'm less
Right.
concerned about the lights. There is some conversation going around concerning the track, whether it's a maintenance project or a renovation project, in which case it would, if it's a maintenance project, it does not fall under CPC. So I think we have to sort of really make it known that this is a reno project. So I think that needs to be more of the focus on this particular one.
Keyword,
right.
innovation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so CPC has deemed it eligible, and therefore it is deemed eligible under CPC funding, because CPC is the only committee that can actually deem a project eligible for funding. People can ask questions, but this was a topic that was discussed back in November about whether it was maintenance or capital project, which is allowable underneath the statute.
I think
CPC
other
has their
commissions are talking about whether or not it's maintenance.
Yep, 100%, because CPC has to defend the eligibility that they found.
Exactly.
But the CPC is voting on Wednesday on what articles will actually go to town meeting. I'll call it the floor.
This Wednesday?
Wednesday the 16th, 7:30.
Oh,
17.
okay. So we'll wait to hear if our two projects get the thumbs up to go forward. And then from there, we'll talk offline about how we should put together, what we should put together and for a video presentation, and whether or not we should ask Eddie if he's willing to speak, because I think he has more knowledge, certainly more knowledge about the track than I have, folks. So let's speak after the CPC meeting and determine what we should put together. How's that? Good? Okay. All right, anything else on, what's the amount of the Claxton project? Is that 120? Do I have that wrong?
I'm not sure the amount. It's design funds only, so it's not, it's
101?
design funds.
Something like that.
I don't recall the amount. I don't know if anyone else, I'm not the only one, I guess.
It's in the 100 range. I know that. I want to say it's between 100 and 110.
Okay.
101.5, and the track is 160. I just might happen to have my CPC minutes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Kristen. All right. Stacy, last item on your is the assistant director position.
Cindy, first, I did get your email and I responded. I did not hit send.
Oh, because
So-
I didn't see.
So
But
I
I-
apologize that didn't go through. But I did respond saying, like, do you want to talk about this? Yeah, I mean, there are still many departments in town that are on a hiring freeze. My guess is this is the conversation that they're having about this particular position. I have had multiple conversations with Katie King about, like, okay, but for the pool, this is what I need. And her and I touch base at least once a week, and this is still continuing. I'm working on a report for her to talk about, you know, when we would need this to really go into place if we open the pool regular time. If it was a normal non-COVID world, when would we need this position in place? So I have had multiple conversations, but that is the feedback that I got from the town that I wanted to pass on to you.
Okay, so what was troubling to me is that when Angela said she was leaving and we talked about how do we get this started, and the commission was told, well, it'll start in September, and now we're in mid-September, and I'm seeing October, and early October, late October. To me, when I talk about something in town and someone says October, I know it's going to be the second half always.
Mm-hmm.
So now, like, it's already slipped, and I think the longer it slips, the less likely it is we will be able to fill it. It's just the way I've always operated because I seem like I always was under some kind of hiring restrictions. So I'm just concerned, is there a message here, or is this slipping just because it's slipping?
I think this is a COVID-related situation. And that my sense is there's no desire to get rid of the position now that I know it's been acquired, but it is the many commissions, the Finance Commission in particular is looking at all of the staffing as we
Yep.
go into fall, and we are still working at part-time levels, whether we're in the building or not. I mean, we're all working full-time, but there are many positions that just can't get or working to prove that we are working 40 hours, I guess is where I'm trying to go with that. So this
Okay.
comes as no surprise. It feels jarring because we went from nothing to pool and programs, and we had 1 million staff level people, and then now we're like back into pre-May staffing.
Right. Well, it feels jarring to me because I wanted to get this, you know, this car on the road right away. I don't know that it would make a difference, but anyway. Commissioner Tulin, did you have a question, a comment?
Yeah, I think, Stacy, what can we do to help? Because I think this is something, Cindy, to your point, I don't want us to wait going to the select board with this. This is a revenue producing position, right? And any delay in getting them in is going to impact the revenue of the town and of this department. And so why I
Matt, you just muted yourself.
sorry. I understand that the cost pressures that the town is under, but we are looking at revenue generation here, not cost savings or just a cost center. And I think that is something that needs to be stressed, as well as if we do not have an assistant director, someone to manage the pool starting in January, right, at the minimum, we don't have a pool season. Because as we all know, and Kristen has lived this more than the rest of us have, we need to be recruiting our staff for next year now. We need to be doing all of this bid process that we talked about in this 3-year process now. We need to be thinking of new revenue generating programs in a COVID environment for next spring and summer and fall and all those logistics. We need to be working that now, not waiting for it. So I guess I would say, Cindy, I'd like to know, who do I need to call and how do we push it forward? Stacy, I don't want to step on your toes, but this is something that we've got to push on, because otherwise the yeoman's work that the staff did this year is going to be twice as hard next year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so to that point, Matt, but just let me interject before you speak, Stacy. I spoke to a select board member today. It was on another subject, and I said, you know, we really need to fill this. And he said, well, you know, so you really need like start in January. And I said, no, because the way hiring works in this town, every time I've been involved, which is maybe 5 times over the years, 6 times, if we start now, we won't be interviewing until December at the earliest. We won't have someone starting until February at the earliest. And more likely it will be March, April. That's just the way it seems to go. That's how long it took us to get Stacy, how long it took us to get our assistant town manager, how long it took us to get, it just takes that long for some reason to go through that process. I don't know if we're any different than other towns, but it's a long, slow process. So I suspect, Stacy's shaking her head, that we're the same as other towns. So when I mentioned that to him, he said, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. So, I brought it up today. I don't know if Stacy has other suggestions, but I mean, I think we need to elevate it. Just our concern. If it's where we end up, it's where we end up. But we've seen our department run very short-staffed, and it's been awful at times. It's been very hard, very tough on the staff, and you know, I think we've broken a few people over the years, and that is not the intent. It's not the intent of the town. It's not the intent of this commission, and I sure don't want to be part of that. So Stacy had something to say, and then I'll go to Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had multiple conversations with the assistant town manager about this, and I've stressed, I think it's very clear to everybody that starting January, we need a full staff.
Mhm.
It is harder to prove and push that right now we need that position because our fall programming has taken, like Chris is doing amazing jobs, like with trying to find some virtual and some outside stuff. But because we have zero access to the schools, it's changed our programming process quite a bit, which means it's changing our revenue generating. And if we had, like, we didn't generate any money this summer through either
No.
of those things, either the programs that we ran. So I agree that position is 100% necessary to move forward in a real non-COVID world. But at the moment, I think FinCom's is taking a very fine look at things. So every time I talk to Katie, it's like, yes, we need this. Yes, we need to start. This is what it looks like. For Park and Rec, frankly, September, like I mentioned before, is the best time to go looking for a job because everybody's like,
Mhm.
well, they're all burned out after summer and they're looking to move. So like that's the best time to go grab them. But so I'm leaning on her pretty heavily with this one about this position in particular and how we strategize making sure it gets done sooner rather than later.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Gerstle?
I mean, again, just to echo what everyone's saying, I know that we've had a rough stretch over the last few years with our not most recent assistant director, but the one before that. We were never at full staff. And I think we made that commitment to our director and our new director, Stacy, that we wanted to be at full staff as much as possible. It's not fair to have Stacy and Kristen and the staff working 70 hours a week, making up the work of, 7 people when there's only 5 people working there. It's not fair. And it's the assistant director position. It's this number 2 on the list right there. This is something that can't go on and, we'll get to it when we get to it. That's not this type of position. Mr. Tulin was correctly right. This is a revenue-driven thing. Stacey, you mentioned about the programs. We have so much more going on right now. We cannot not have this, if that makes sense.
Oh, I know. And I've talked to Katie, sorry, Matt, to jump in on you. But, I basically have said like, well, okay, if this person isn't in place, these are the things that I'm going to have to focus on, which means I cannot focus on these giant projects that I need to focus on.
That's not fair to you.
And, she sees it, she gets it, and we're just trying to brainstorm on how to push it forward.
Okay.
Yeah,
Matt?
yeah, Stacy, I guess the other thing is that if we wait until the fog lifts, right, of COVID, which let's, roll your dice, be predictive, as Bruce said on the last call, he's not going back to his office until mid next year. Neither am I. Likely most folks aren't. However, if we wait until the fog lifts to hire a director, then we're still going to be 6 months behind when that lifts. So we won't even be able to be responding to when this happens. So, I mean, yes, January, I think if we could start now to get somebody January, but if the argument is we have to wait until fog lifts, then we're going to be another 6 to 9 months out from what we can do after that.
Right.
To do any programming, to do, because what's going to happen, and this is likely for us and every other department, the fog is going to lift and everyone's going to want to get back to 100% service from the town. And we've witnessed this, and you guys have done a yeoman's job, but you witnessed it with, and the school board has witnessed it with the changing regulations coming down from the state. Each time one of these, something changes with regards to these regulations. We saw it with fields and sports. How many times did the MIAA change their position on how recreational sports and camps and fields and things are going to be? So your workload is higher on top of trying to manage through this as well. So, I'll make a couple of calls. I do think, I think it's great. You should work through Katie, but maybe Cindy, Chris, we should be talking to the select board and going to Kate directly I just think we need to elevate this. And Cindy, I'll defer to you on how you want to handle that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that we should work our channels too. And, you know, unfortunately, we will be competing for money with the schools, and pretty hard to argue with the fact that they have a very difficult job right now. And I know they're asking for more money, and hard to argue that they don't need it. And then, of course, public safety. So our argument in the past has always been, if you give us the staff, we'll generate more revenue. And right now, that's a difficult sell. But we have that lovely pool facility, and next year the town will want us to open it again. And we can only do that if we have this staff and have the right level of staff. So, yeah, so we'll continue to talk to people that we can talk to and work through the channels that we can work through.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. That was concerning. All right. All right. Why don't we, is anyone have anything else before we go through what's left on the agenda? Okay. So Stacy in her director's report has covered pools, programs. I saw today that we have announced sign up for fall programs.
Yep, starting next. Nope, it's starting this Wednesday, the 16th. We got a bunch of programs coming out, some virtual, some in person. Like I said, I was hoping for around 10. I think Chris is getting closer to 20. So we're doing a pretty good job in mixing them up. So we'll see. We're trying to bang them all out now, because once we hit winter, it's going to be harder to do anything outdoors. And by then, nobody's want to take a virtual Zoom class with us. But we're working on it. We're trying to figure out ways to, we're getting these up, and then we're going to try and figure out ways to get some stuff going for adults, because that's been really difficult.
Okay. Any of these revenue generating?
They'll all generate revenue.
Okay. Okay.
Our adult
enough said.
tennis and our youth tennis programs are completely sole sourced by the recreation department. They're not a vendor program. So
Yeah.
and our art and our school year arts and crafts that we announced today.
So that's a good way to put it. If we vendor it out to a company like Wicked Cool for Kids, we don't make a lot of money off of it, but we're offering a good service to the town. If we are running a program, then we definitely generate more revenue.
Okay. Playgrounds, I think you have, I'm sorry, any commissioners have comments on programs? Commissioner Tulin.
Yeah, this may be moot, but what about our traditional holiday programs, Halloween, Thanksgiving, anything around there that we've got, you know,
Spooky walk.
Yeah, I mean, can we take a piece of town forest and make it a real true spooky walk, you know, something fun like that, just, or even the Rosemary piece, which is purely our land or whatever. But I know that trick-or-treating is likely going to be out this fall, which I hate to say, but you know, what can we do to help bridge that gap? I didn't see anything like that, but I would think we'd need to be planning that now.
So we are trying to plan something. I was on a meeting with the EOC team last week to talk about fields first and foremost, but then holidays came up. Halloween and trick-or-treating is definitely something that they are discussing. Town manager does not want to cancel anything trick-or-treating. I say we just have parents launch or adults launch candy from their stoops and have the kids sit on the sidewalks and see if you can hit them. I mean, in their bag, like see what happens. But we're trying to think outside of the box with some programming. It's not going to look like it did in the past at all. The spooky walk is a no-go, but we are going to try and figure out something. As far as the turkey hunt, I think we're going to make that as more spread out, and we can also offer a virtual turkey hunt like we did for the virtual egg hunt. So Chris and Kristen and Kim and I are all working to sort of brainstorm for events, but you know, in the meeting, they were also talking about like all of the Thanksgiving dinners that some of the communities throw for people that don't have other places to be. And those are going to delivery only because you can't gather more than X amount of people. And so you can't really do it. So that's the conversation that's happening. So we're trying to figure out how to redesign our events.
Okay. Well, good luck. That's a great point, Matt, because that spooky walk gets so many kids. I don't know if the merchants were happy about it or shuddered to see all those kids, but so many kids, we had to run it at least in 2 different batches, right, Kristen? We had 2 batches of kids, so many kids. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking if we could do it in the woods or something instead of at the stores, right? And maybe it's not a candy thing, but maybe it's like a haunted forest, right? It's just a little bit different. You walk down a path and things jump out at you. I've done them in the past in other towns, but you can make them as scary or not depending on your audience. But we already have all these trails and things, and it wouldn't take much to add a little color to it and do a couple of things.
Isn't COVID scary enough, Matt?
Yeah.
We're already all in masks, so you know.
Yeah, like, it's already walking around that way. All right. Next item is playgrounds, which Stacy, I believe you have covered, unless any commissioner has a question. Okay. Fields, we have gone over the fall field summit update. Not exactly a field, but Rosemary Trail had a little bit of damage. I saw that somebody posted pictures of graffiti and a bench thrown in the water.
So we've had some fun in some of our trails. We've had quite a bit of graffiti. And so I'm on another committee with DPW and actually Sarah Shine from Youth and Family Services to do some art projects over the graffiti places. You know, in the vein of like, well, if you can't beat them, let's get these kids out there and paint these things. On the rail trailer stuff, Rosemary's one, and then the tunnel between DeFazio and Pollard was another one. There's nothing, I mean, we are covering immediately anything that is inappropriate, but we're looking to actually get the youth involved in designing and painting and putting some art up in some of these areas. As we move forward, obviously we'll get your permission from it, but the thing is, if they're going to tag it, let's give them the space to tag it and make it pretty.
Right. Is the tunnel, the Pollard Tunnel, is that have graffiti again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have been in the Exchange Club, and we have, I believe, at least twice had a project where we painted it some lovely shade of light blue. I don't know why it was that color, but that's what.
Kirsten and I walked down there a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "This is a color."
Yeah, would not have been our choice either, but that was what
the town sale color right there.
Yeah,
Easier to tag, you know, it's a blank canvas, but it's easier to tag again.
It seemed it to me too, but okay. Who's Commissioner? We have no picture and no voice for him. Is he gone? Yeah. All right. Well, if we need a vote, we'll have to call him. All right. Facilities. Skate park. What's up with this? Oh, here he is back.
You needed a refill.
Yeah.
We are.
I had to let the dog in. Stop.
We are working on thinking. So I have located the skate park.
Yay.
And now, because DPW is not busy at all, I'm working with them to try and get it moved to actually the upper parking lot at Rosemary, because I feel like it's a good space. It's not supposed to be busy in the off season, and it is very visible for the police. That's always my big thing, is that they can do drive-bys, and since we have graffiti in other areas, we want this to be pretty visible. So I think if we can put it over in a corner, cone it off, that might be the best place. So I am working with DPW on that.
Oh, that's great.
I think that's a great location.
And then basketball courts and tennis courts. I just put on there as a reminder for me to just like touch base with you guys if there's anything to come up.
Commissioner Gerstle and I were supposed to do an inventory of those basketball courts, I think maybe like 2 years ago.
Mm.
I wouldn't waste your time right now because there's a lot of tents on them at the moment.
Yeah.
So I did manage to get the tents moved off of the middle of playing fields, so that was good. Now they're on the basketball courts, and so be it. That's where they're going to stay because they are not cheap to move. And I'd rather have them driving stakes in the ground on the perimeter of a basketball court instead of the middle of a field. So that's what we're going to do so that the schools can have some outdoor classrooms.
Okay. Okay. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? No?
Did any
All
of
right.
our irrigation systems get nailed by a stake in the ground?
I have no idea how they did not, but they did not. Somebody was looking over Eddie, or Eddie was praying. I don't know. But when I got the call, I was like, oh, that's like
Wow.
a web under there.
Yeah.
So we are good. Or the kids are going to get sprayed the first day that they go out there, which is like, so be it.
They try to have lunch, right? If they have lunch in that tent, they'll be sprayed. Oh, okay.
Actually, quick question. Do we
Chris.
actually have clarification of what the tents are being used for? I've heard rumors of it could be outdoor lunch areas, it could be outdoor classrooms. Anything else, or
Yes to all of that. So
Okay.
some of them will be used for, they're going to rotate the kids out as much as possible.
Good.
It is more for the classrooms, actually, I think, than actually for the lunches, but they're
Okay.
going to use whatever they can.
got it?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
F and G are good.
Assistant. Okay. Assistant Director Search CPC. Okay. Events. Yeah, the 1775 walk. That's still happening?
So I was approached by Kevin Keene. Did I say that right, Kristen? Yes. Okay. I met with him 2 weeks ago to talk about moving this forward next April. And he just wanted to touch base and see if we were on board still. And I said, absolutely. I told him to schedule a meeting and that I would sit in with them. I think it's a great thing. And we're going to talk. It won't be as big as it was, and it'll be certainly different. But we are going to try and make this event happen again.
Okay. Questions from the commissioners? No. Okay. Projects. The infamous boat launch. I would actually like to go over and look at the boat launch site, but you can't get there because South Street is blocked off, I think, for the rest of my lifetime. But South Street is blocked off by Eversource. And it is a constant detour, no matter where I go from my neighborhood. So I don't know that I will see that launch unless I actually jump in the river and swim over. So do you have any update on it, Stacy? No. Okay.
Ride your bike.
Well, have you seen the signs which say detour, bikes, follow the road, do not, I mean, even the bikes can't get down there. So
Why don't you park at PSAB and then walk around the reservoir trail, and then you can check out the boat launch.
you think? I'm just worried I'll fall in some big trench because I think they have excavated the entirety of South, at least on this side of town.
If you
You
fall
just
and you
can't.
can't get up, please call me.
No,
Just
I will not.
click.
I will not be. You
We
I
will
will
be
not
the
be.
next Park and Rec episode. Cindy fell in the pit.
Oh boy.
Yes. All right. Walker Pond. So we have a Walker Pond meeting by Zoom, I think, on Thursday. Is that correct?
We do, and we have some updates. And I saw some emails going around tonight. Tony has a document that he has sent over to Katie for Katie to circulate before the meeting or as of the meeting. So that will give an update to everybody of what is actually happening over there. So that is good. Rick, who had to jump off, wanted to let us know that FinCom voted to support the Walker Sewer extension last week.
Oh,
Wow.
that's good.
And it sounds like the Board of Health is discussing speaking in favor of the article at the State of Town meeting as well.
Wow, that's a
Great.
change of events.
Yeah, good. Okay. Stacy, who will run that meeting, that Walker Pond meeting? Will that be you? Will that be Katie? It'll be you. Okay,
It's me.
great. Okay.
I like to run meetings and then let people take them over. That's my jam.
Okay. So I will also be attending that. Any questions on Walker Pond? No, okay. Rail Trail. I
I'm
hear,
on
I
the
hear
Rail
some,
Trail Advisory Committee, and apparently I'm chair. I didn't know that's what I signed up for, but like, yes, I'm all in.
you're there?
I guess.
Wow.
I thought it was Deb Anderson is liaison, and I
Yeah.
thought you were just a part of it. I didn't know you were the chair.
Yeah, me too. But all of a sudden, I have to schedule the meetings. I found out. I didn't know that's why we weren't having one. Katie was like, "Can you schedule a meeting?" And I was like, "Sure." I
Ooh, okay.
didn't know.
Let me step in on that if you don't mind. Because James Goldstein is on the Bay Colony Rail Trail Association, who is also on the Rail Trail Advisory Committee, that he reached out to myself and Ed Olson, because Ed used to be the liaison, that now that Deb has taken Ed's spot, I forwarded that email to Deb to set up a time, and they were looking around September 30th. I didn't know that you were included on that, Stacy. I apologize.
Don't, because I didn't know either.
Okay. I will include you in his response
Great.
going
Thank
forward. Like I said, I didn't know you were there or on it, and I think it's great. We could be on it together. It's fantastic.
Looking forward
Wow.
to it.
The thing that I keep telling everybody is where there was once Patty, you have to insert Stacy.
I take
It's not
Wow.
just advisory committees. It's like town departments are like, where once Patty sat, now you put Stacy.
All right,
Yeah,
so that's
and
where I was
some things
confused,
I
because
didn't know about.
I thought Eddie took the spot of Patty, because I don't remember seeing Patty at the last few meetings that we had at the last year. So,
Yeah, I thought she had stepped off of that, Chris, too. I agreed. I thought Patty was back from that a while ago.
Well,
But
for the
Stacey,
record, when people ask what questions you should ask in interviews, I have a whole new list.
how many committees do I
Yeah.
automatically get signed into?
Yes, yes, that's a big one. How many projects
don't-
are undergoing?
I'll
Well,
forward
if
you that
you're-
email tonight, Stacy, just to keep
Thank
you in the
you.
loop. Sorry about that.
No worries.
And if you're there, I suspect it's because you missed a meeting or two that you didn't even know about. That's how you got
Mhm.
elected chair. Yeah, it has happened to me a lot in my life. I seldom miss meetings now, seldom, even just to show up, because otherwise you become chair.
Yeah, you make
well-
sure you only take vacations when it's not voting time for reorganization.
That's how they sucker me on
Exactly.
CPC.
Yep.
Well, that
All right,
was
well,
by
good luck.
design. We knew you weren't going to be here. That's when we put it on the agenda.
All right. Well, good luck with that, Stacy. We wish you the best of luck, and
Okay.
we'll support you if we absolutely have to. Open space and recreation plan. Any update on that? Or
Yeah, so we met with the designers, contractors, whatever you want to call them, for
Oh,
this
tie
tie-in bond. And I'm doing a little research. There's some questions. There's a few things to tie up before we finish it. And we're looking to extend it to 2023, because we can extend it for 3 years, because it hasn't been published. We could take the time now to redo the whole thing, or we could take the time now, which I've done or started to do, and review it, see if there's any updates or changes, and then okay it for 3 more years before we really dig into a committee. I don't know that the committee for the next go round should be as big as the last one was, because there
it was a huge committee.
60 people
Huge.
on that. So I talked to Deb. Deb is reaching out to Matt, who is her predecessor. I'm trying to go through Patty's stuff, and I reached out to Patty, just touch base with her about the plan. But yes, we are, because there's like random money left over in this particular project, and the town is trying to tie up all those loose ends. We are meeting with people. So we met with them last week. So it is moving
Okay.
forward.
I was looking for something today on my computer, and I came across open space plan, and it is from 2016. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the. I thought I had something in that folder on my computer.
The most
Oh, my.
recent draft that I have is from 2017.
Right. So the stuff I had was December 2016. So okay.
Well, at
Well,
this rate, we're going to run right into the town capital plan, 10-year
Right.
strategic capital plan.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else on the open space? Commissioners have any questions? No. Okay. Meeting minutes, we were provided with minutes in our package from June 9th. Is that what that says? June 9th, 2020. Commissioner, I would entertain a motion.
I have a question
Oh,
first. Kristen, as far as absent goes, I don't think you have to put Chris and Kim on there. And who is Ryan
Yeah,
Barry?
who is Ryan Barry?
I don't know.
That should have been guests.
Got it. Thank you.
Not absent, they were guests. I was wondering, like
They were
Ryan Beck.
guests. I'm
Who still is
sorry.
Ryan Barry?
A resident of the town.
Resident of the town. He came to a couple of meetings earlier.
Okay.
on.
Yeah.
Okay, with that,
Make a
Change.
I'll
motion
make
to
that change. I apologize.
Commissioner Tulin, I'm sorry, I think you muted yourself partway through that.
make a motion to accept the minutes.
I
with
will
the one
second.
change.
Oh, boy.
Commissioner Gerstle, second.
Well, I think he wants to make the change first. Oh, with the change. Okay. Yes, I second.
Okay. So now I have to have a roll call vote. So all those in favor, Commissioner Tulin,
Aye.
Commissioner Gerstle.
Aye.
The chair is also an aye, therefore it passes unanimously. Thank you, Kristen, for those minutes. Okay. So program pricing. What is there any program? There is nothing. Okay, perfect.
That's
Our
just a
next meeting-
placeholder.
Okay. Next meetings are listed below. I think we decided on these dates last time. So commissioners, if you would just double check over the next week or so, if any of those look like a problem, let Stacy know, but hopefully they're still good. Issues not reasonably anticipated. I don't have any. Anyone have any issues that they need to bring up that weren't anticipated? Commissioner Gerstle.
Not necessarily an issue, just a comment that I was driving by the Rosemary Chambers Cove over the weekend. It was great to see as many cars that they had packed in there and people on their electronic boats. I mean, just out there. It was like a picturesque day that it was a perfect time to do it, that it was good to see everything being done in that, because I was reading through the notes of the minutes and we had just wrapped up the sediment project. So to kind of see it come full circle of, we had construction vehicles there, to it gated up, to it's now people are actually using it and accessing it in the parking lot. You could not fit another car in there. It was very nice to see that.
Oh, terrific. Great. Anything else?
All I have.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Kristen. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor, Commissioner Gerstle,
Aye.
Commissioner Tulin.
Aye.
The chair is also an aye, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Have a great night.
See y'all.
Bye-bye.